Welcome to week 2 of the Major League Gaming PC Circuit Starcraft 2 King of the Beta Hill Showmat series. I'm JP McDaniel, a staff member here at MLG, and missing this week is Sean Day9 Plot, but in his place we have a veteran of the commentary world, Zach Diggity Smith. He just posted his 1000th replay or commentary on YouTube. What's going on, Zach?
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, so of course we saw Louder defeat Artosis last week, PVZ in a 3-1 series, and Louder is a Protoss player, but he will possibly be playing Terran tonight, or even Random, he was telling me earlier. Zach, do you have any little extra info about Louder?
Louder's an amazing player. He's one of those guys who also plays extremely well under pressure. Usually what tends to happen is when he's under pressure, he tries to play a little bit safer, but this is StarCraft 2. I think anything can happen. Either way, he's got a formidable opponent in response.
Yeah, and of course, like he's just said, his opponent tonight is going to be Jonathan Response Layman, who was voted on by the users of Godfrag.com and TeamLiquid.net. He's a Protoss player who's also been playing Zerg recently. And Diggity, do you have any little extra information about Response?
Response is a really reliable guy. He's been on a lot of teams, most notably, I think, Neil Response, basically his tag there. He's been, a solid guy in USA Team A. I don't know how he matches up in the 1v1 stuff, but we'll see how he does here. He tends to be a little bit safer, tends to go for the macro builds, which will probably be tough going up against a player like Louder.
All right, well, like you said, we'll just have to see how he does tonight. And, of course, it is a best-of-5 series, and the map rotation is Lost Temple, followed by Steppes of Vor, into Desert Oasis, then Kulas Ravine, and finally Scrap Station. So, without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and get this match started. All right, and now we are here on our first map, Lost Temple. Now, Diggity, what can you tell us about this old-school StarCraft 1 map?
Well, precisely that. It's a really old school map. It's got a kind of a new makeover. There's now high yield mineral expansions at the top left and bottom right on the interior. Also island expansions as standard in the top left, bottom right beyond that. But really, I think the critical thing, we'll see if either of these players are able to exploit it. Over the natural expansion, you have that high cliff edge. So really, on Response's end, if you see Colossus or Louder, if he gets any of those units that can just hop down that top level and bottom level, either player could really exploit that.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get the match started. And we are going to see Louder play Random, so we're going to see what race he pulls here in about 2 seconds now as the map as the game counts down. And he's still going to be pulling Random, of course. I forgot that it doesn't tell you on this versus screen what race he's playing, so now we're waiting for the players to load. And we have, of course, Response playing Protoss, which is pretty much what he's been playing the entire beta so far. He's played a little bit of Zerg, but I think his strong race is, of course, Protoss. And we're going to see a mirror here for our first matchup as we see Louder spawning red Protoss at the 9 o'clock position, and at the 7 o'clock position we see Response spawning as the blue Protoss.
Wow, it's going to be absolutely critical that Response scouts the proper direction early, because in PvP, if he doesn't know that he's going up against a Protoss, he's going to have a lot of trouble fighting it back. And Response is one of those guys that's the way he plays. He plays responsively. He likes kind of just basically doing whatever, going up against whatever his opponent's doing. And if he was playing a Zerg or a Terran, he'd be playing this completely different.
We see Louder kind of talking about a little bit of lag. I'm asking him if it's okay still. We see both players putting down the pylon at 10, which is pretty much your standard opener, obviously. And Louder is, of course, saying that his lag is now fixed, so we will continue the match. He's telling us exactly when it happened. But somehow, ironically enough, he's still keeping his APM. He's peaking at 600 APM right there, averaging at 317, which is pretty crazy considering he's typing out a pretty long sentence.
And actually, he might have just given away his advantage in all talk. He said, my probe didn't build until 120 minerals, which might give Response an idea that he is, in fact, going up against a Protoss opponent rather than a Zerg or a Terran. So it looked like for a second he might have been in trouble because he was scouting the wrong direction. It looks like he sent out that scout a lot earlier than Louder did because he wanted to know what race he was playing against, but sent it the wrong direction, so he's going to come into Louder's base last. But we'll see how he plays it from here. He's already got that gateway building. It looks like he's delaying a little bit on gas, getting that gas right now. But again, because of that early probe scout, he's going to just be slightly behind, but otherwise that's not too far to. That's not such a big disadvantage this early on, but it is a really precise matchup, so every little bit helps.
Yeah, we see both players pretty much doing the same identical build. And now in the PvP matchups, there's a lot of things that you can do. And one of them is a 3-gate opener, which I don't think any of or either of these players are doing. The other one is kind of going for a quick Colossus, which I think we might see both players doing. What do you think is going to happen here, Diggity?
Well, a lot of PvP, what it comes down to is a lot of Zealots early, and then, yeah, just kind of following it up with a Colossus and trying to get that Colossus out as early as possible. And really, whoever wins that first engagement with the Colossuses involved, that really tends to depict the rest of the match from there. So, really, I think that first engagement, when you see Colossuses in play, that's really going to be, in my opinion, what will be the depicting play, should this match just kind of proceed as normal.
Yeah, and it looks like actually Response is going to get his cybernetics core done before Louder's. Louder's just putting his down a couple seconds ago. His is now is about 40%, while Response is actually warping in now. He also has a second gateway up there in Response's base, and Louder has just now gone to his base with his scouting probe, while Response has been inside of Louder's base. It looks like he opted to build that. Oh, we see a pylon going down inside of Louder's base, and Louder quickly responds by putting 4 probes and 1 zealot on it. Looks like that's going to fall pretty quickly. We see another pylon down right below, and it's at about half. We see 2 zealots, and he cancels that as well with another pylon. Oh, maybe those were both fake pylons, as we see a second one at the bottom of Louder's base, and he actually does not see it. So we might see a little bit of tricky play coming in here from Response, and his actual warp gate research is down, and we see him warping in 2 warp gates, and now we see 2 zealots actually warping inside of Louder's base. We might see a quick game here in game 1 on Lost Temple.
This is an absolutely genius play, absolutely brilliant play from Response, and this is not what you'll stereotypically see him do. I like that he's mixing it up. He's already got Zealots inside Louder's probe line, just wreaking havoc. The probe's completely pulling off the line now, and Louder's going to have to try to defend this with just 2 Zealots and a Sentry. That Sentry will really be the key here, but I expect to see a couple Sentries warping in for Response as well in just a moment.
Yeah, and he's now building a 4th gateway inside of his base. So this is pretty much that cheese build that we saw that I think it was from a Korean VOD that we were seeing. And now we see him with 4 zealots inside of Louder's base, and Louder's and he pulls back without even a GG. So we see the first match going to Response, 1-0 over Louder. They're on Lost Temple.
I definitely don't think Louder saw that coming because, again, Response tends to be a macro-based player. That's not his typical style, but Response throwing him a curveball, and it paid off, taking a quick win.
All right, so that was, of course, Response beating Louder in Map 1 on Lost Temple, and now we are going to be going into our second map on Steps of War. All right.